I never thought everything Baldric had done to me would one day bring me to this point, but life has a way of cornering you at the most unexpected moments, and that night, the night when boundaries blurred, when logic fell silent, and the storm inside me spoke instead, I felt completely cornered. I was sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at my trembling phone screen, my eyes locked on it as if refusing to accept what I was seeing. Baldric's messages, the photos with her, walking arm in arm through a hotel lobby, that smile on his face, the one he hadn't shown me in months. My stomach clenched, my hands turned ice cold, the anger inside me, the disappointment, and worst of all, the helplessness. I was 36, my first marriage, I thought it was love, but to Baldric, I was just the third woman. 45 years old, 3 marriages, countless betrayals, and now he had done this to me too. Baldric would never know what he had pushed me into tonight. I didn't deserve this, and I wasn't going to hold myself back anymore. Tonight was that night. Throughout this marriage, Baldric had always treated me however he pleased. In the beginning, everything was perfect, he was affectionate, made me feel special, but then the last couple of years, he had become cold, distant, almost like a stranger, and now there he was with another woman in a hotel, arm in arm, as if I had never even existed in his life. I took a deep breath. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here in this bed, drowning in this feeling of helplessness. Suddenly, I stood up without thinking. I walked out of my room, the hallway was dark, only dimly lit by a small nightlight. My feet knew exactly where they were taking me, but my mind refused to process it. I was going to Archibald's room, Baldric's son from his first marriage. Archibald, 23 years old, had just graduated from college. He had come home for the summer, and ever since Baldric left, it had just been the two of us, but the real issue was we hadn't spoken in days because that night, that moment, something happened between us. We had run into each other in the kitchen, we were just drinking wine, just talking. Baldric's absence had affected both of us, though neither of us said it out loud, and then it happened. Archibald looked at me differently, his eyes softened, but beneath that softness was something intense, something I had never noticed before, and I responded to it without thinking too much, without questioning it too much. We kissed, but just seconds later, we both stopped. "This is wrong," I said. Archibald had stepped back, held his breath, and whispered, "Yeah." Since that night, we hadn't spoken at all, but now, tonight, with Baldric's betrayal tearing down every wall inside me, with my loneliness suffocating me, I didn't want to think about boundaries anymore. I took a deep breath and opened his door. Archibald was lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling with his headphones in. When I stepped inside, he slightly lifted his head, his eyes gleaming in the darkness. For a moment, his face froze when he saw me. "Rowan," he said, his voice sleepy but cautious. I couldn't say anything. I just stepped inside and closed the door behind me. At that moment, our eyes met, and in that moment, everything came rushing back. Before Archibald and I take things further, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. If you want more content like this, don't forget to like and comment. Trust me, the ending of this story is going to be so exciting. When I walked into Archibald's room, my breath was uneven, my heart was pounding hard in my chest, and I was still clutching my phone tightly. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely focus on the screen. Finally, I lifted my head and looked at Archibald. My eyes were burning, but I wasn't crying. I took a shaky breath and stepped closer to him. I was looking at the Instagram page of the hotel Baldric is staying at, I said, my voice rough with emotion, anger, heartbreak, frustration, it was all tangled inside me. And here it is, the photo I saw in the stories. I held the phone out toward him. Archibald sat up on his bed. He was wearing a black, slightly loose t-shirt, the sleeves rolled up, making the muscles in his arms stand out. His hair was a little messy, still damp, he must have showered before bed. His expression was tense, a reflection of the long-standing resentment he felt toward Baldric. He took the phone from my hand, scanning the screen quickly. Baldric laughing with her in the luxurious hotel lobby, that familiar gleam in his eyes, the same way he used to look at me in the beginning, but now I knew better. That look had always been just an illusion. Archibald took a deep breath and turned his gaze to me. "Rowan, I know exactly how you feel." His voice was deep but softer than usual, his eyes locked onto mine. "But I need you to know something. I stopped caring about Baldric a long time ago, and I never want you to feel like some unimportant third wife because of him." I wanted to say something, but the words caught in my throat. Archibald glanced back at the phone, frowning as he shook his head. "That guy is good-looking, has money, and knows how to talk. People believe whatever he says, but in reality, he's worthless. No one knows that better than I do." I looked away, crossing my arms over my chest, trying to steady the shaking inside me. Every word Archibald said was sinking deep, but what affected me the most was the fact that I actually believed him. He took a step closer, the space between us had almost disappeared. "You are not unimportant," he said, his voice lower, steadier. His eyes held mine, not letting me run away from this. "You are beautiful, smart, and thoughtful, Rowan." I held my breath. Archibald's words were fighting against every insecurity Baldric had planted in me over the years, against the fragility inside me, the emptiness of feeling abandoned, the ache of believing I wasn't wanted anymore. But Archibald's voice, it was calming me. For a few seconds, I just looked at him. The dim light in the room cast soft shadows over his face, making his features even more defined, the strong jawline, the slightly messy hair, and most of all, his eyes. Baldric's eyes always carried some kind of calculation, but Archibald's, all I saw in them was truth. My arms dropped to my sides without me even realizing it. Something was burning inside me, but it wasn't anger. Archibald lowered his head slightly, his gaze tracing over my face. We haven't talked in days," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "And we both know why." I swallowed hard. Yes, we both knew. That night, that moment under the dim kitchen lights, just a few steps apart, lost in the emptiness we both felt in Baldric's absence, we had kissed. And seconds later, realizing what we had done, we had pulled away. I had said, "This is wrong." Archibald had just stood there, staring at me, not even breathing for a few seconds. Yeah, that was all he had said, but the hesitation in his voice, did he really believe it, or was he just saying what he thought he was supposed to? Since that night, we had been avoiding each other, but now, we weren't running anymore. Archibald took another step closer, his hands slipped into his pockets, like he was trying to keep himself in check. His eyes locked onto mine. "I don't want to deny this, Rowan," he said in a low voice. "And neither do you." I shivered. His words hit me deep. Archibald was right. I didn't want to deny it. This wasn't about Baldric's betrayal, it wasn't even about loneliness. This was about Archibald. He made me feel things Baldric hadn't made me feel in years, to be noticed, to be seen, to be wanted. And now, as he closed the space between us, I couldn't ignore what was burning inside me anymore. Archibald lifted his hand slightly, his fingertips brushed against my arm, just the faintest touch, like a spark. I looked at him. His eyes weren't asking a question, he already knew the answer. And in that moment, I stopped thinking about right or wrong. In that moment, I just felt. Archibald's eyes stayed locked onto mine, the quiet confidence in them, the steady calm silenced the storm inside me, even if just for a second. "You can sleep here tonight if you want," he said, his voice low and sincere. A simple sentence, but the meaning behind it said so much more. I hesitated for a second. Did I really want this? Baldric's absence, the betrayal I had just uncovered, the emptiness inside me, everything was pulling me toward Archibald, but none of those things were the real reason. The real reason was Archibald himself. I didn't answer, but my eyes spoke for me. Archibald didn't say anything either as he walked toward the bed, pulling off his shirt before lying down. His body stood out in the dim light, his broad shoulders, strong yet relaxed frame. Heat radiated from my skin, yet I wrapped my arms around myself, as if I were cold. Taking a deep breath, I slowly sat down at the edge of the bed. My hands rested on my knees for a moment, and I could feel my heart pounding wildly. Should I lie down next to him? Archibald lifted his head slightly, looking at me. "Don't be afraid, Rowan," he said, his voice soft but firm. "Just sleep, okay?" Finally, I slowly lay down beside him. There was still a gap between us, but the air in the room felt heavy. Archibald's breathing was slow and steady, mine, on the other hand, was erratic, my chest rising and falling too fast. Everything I was feeling was too much. Archibald turned his head slightly toward me, his eyes filled with warmth that seeped into me. "Baldric is an idiot," he whispered, "for losing a woman like you." I closed my eyes. Archibald's words were gently piecing together the broken fragments inside me. It wasn't just his tone that soothed me, it was him, his presence, his. For a few minutes, we didn't speak, only the sound of our breathing filled the quiet room. The tension inside me was slowly unraveling. Being next to Archibald, for the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace. But that peace was slowly turning into something else. Without realizing it, my body was inching closer to his. When our feet brushed against each other, I froze for a moment, but Archibald didn't pull away. In fact, he moved closer. His chest was nearly touching my shoulder, his warmth seeping into my skin. I swallowed hard, my heart pounded so loudly, but I couldn't say anything. Archibald slowly lifted his hand, his fingertips grazing the top of my arm. His touch sent a storm through me. I took a deep breath, my eyes unconsciously drifting to his. Archibald was looking at me too. The moment our eyes locked, the pull between us felt tangible. We just froze there. My plan was simply to sleep here, just to find some peace, but this moment, this was so much more than that. Archibald's eyes flickered down to my lips, and mine to his. 1 second, then another, and suddenly, we both moved at the same time. The moment our lips met, the feeling that exploded inside me was beyond words. It was so natural, so inevitable. The kiss was soft but deep. Archibald's hand slid to my cheek, his touch igniting a fire within me. My body turned fully toward him, and stopping him, that thought never even crossed my mind. All night, we had been running from the truth, but now, we both accepted it. Maybe this was wrong, but everything it made me feel was completely right. I stood up, my chest rising and falling rapidly. My hands reached for my phone, my fingers shaking as I looked at the screen. The pictures were still there, him with that woman, that smug smile on his face. A wave of anger surged through me so fast that my fingers trembled. Then my eyes drifted toward Archibald. He was lying on the bed, stretched out, one arm resting behind his head, watching me. His gaze was dark and unreadable, but I could feel it, and having his eyes on me, it ignited something entirely different inside me. I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to feel guilty for this. Baldric had already set me free. I reached for the straps of my dress, slowly sliding them off my shoulders. The moment my body was released, I felt like every invisible chain inside me shattered. Archibald didn't look away. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then, in a low voice, I murmured, "I guess Baldric finally unlocked the chains on my ankles tonight." Even I could hear the change in my own voice. I'm not holding myself back anymore. Whatever my body wants, and whatever I feel, I'm going to let it happen. Archibald's breath caught. My words hung in the air between us, heavy and electric, like we were both trying to process what they really meant. But for me, everything was already crystal clear. Slowly, I stepped forward. I climbed onto the bed, placing my knees on either side of his legs. Archibald's eyes locked onto mine, excitement, surprise, and something much, much deeper. At that moment, I knew there was no turning back, and I didn't care. All I wanted now was to feel, and so it would be. Archibald's hands made a few slow movements. I put my hands on his shoulders and looked into his eyes, and I felt something big inside me, something big and something that made me feel alive. I closed my eyes and lifted my head to the ceiling, with this warmth inside me. Archibald, everything you made me feel is so big. Thank you so much. Archibald replied, You're beautiful, Rowan, more beautiful than I could ever imagine. We were both out of breath already. My body contracted, and my legs trembled. I had to pause. I looked at Archibald and wanted to say a few words, but I could only say, Archibald, in a loud voice. I put my hands on my legs and pressed my fingernails into them. We both turned red. I was always the lead, I loved it. I was too out of it to control my movements. Archibald was just watching me, in amazement, in love, in awe. I got tired and lay down. This time, Archibald sat up and looked at me, smiling slightly as he said, Are you okay? I just nodded my head in agreement. This time, Archibald looked very excited. I was wringing the sheets with my hands, and in my mind, betrayal, Baldric, the day in the kitchen, all went through my mind one by one. I was reacting out loud now. Archibald, don't be scared, we both want the same thing, I said and encouraged him, and he understood that. He was relaxed and not nervous at all. Archibald let himself go completely, taking a few big, fast, deep breaths. He lay down next to me. Archibald tilted his head slightly, his eyes locked on mine. Do you regret it? He asked, his voice low but filled with curiosity. I shook my head slightly, my gaze drifting toward the ceiling. No, I said without a second thought, not even for a moment. Archibald kept looking at me, that familiar smirk playing at the corner of his lips. That day in the kitchen, I knew, he murmured. I saw everything back then. You didn't really know Baldric, but I always saw him exactly for what he was. I turned my eyes to him. He was right. It took me time to really see Baldric for who he was, but Archibald had always known. The weight in my body drowned out the mess in my mind. Baldric, I started, but I didn't finish the sentence. I sighed, then smiled. I don't think you realize how happy I am right now, and I can't even feel my legs. Archibald let out a soft chuckle, his fingers slowly tracing over my arm. Right now, the only thing I want, I whispered, tilting my head slightly toward him, is to fall asleep next to you, and from now on, I want a life where it's always you. Archibald paused for a moment, warmth flickering in his gaze. Then sleep, Rowan. I closed my eyes, and for the first time, I felt truly at peace. Archibald's arm wrapped around my body, his breath brushing against my skin. In that moment, I had no idea what the future held, but none of that mattered. That night, that moment, California, and until Baldric came back, every night would be ours. But the real moment, the one I knew would change everything, would be when Archibald stepped onto that balcony one day, not caring about anyone, not hesitating, and taking what was already his. This story isn't over. Make sure to follow and subscribe for more, turn on notifications, and drop a comment. Your support means everything. Thank